Ellie, tell you what.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. לכו נרננה, יא לי 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 לי, לאדוני, יא לי 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 לי, לאריה, יא לי 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 לי, לצור ישענו, יא לי 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 לי. Let us sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. לכו נרננה, יא לי 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 לי, לאדוני, יא לי 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 לי, לאריה, יא לי 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 לי, לצור ישענו, יא לי לי לי. For all of the wonder in all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. לכו נרננה, יא לי 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 לי, לאדוני, יא לי 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 לי, לאריה, יא לי 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 לי, לצור ישענו, יא לי 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 לי, יא לי לי
I invite you to let Shabbat settle upon your shoulders, to let Shabbat settle upon your mind and upon your heart. Shabbat is can be like a garment that we put on that gives us a greater sense of comfort and relief, of support and uplift. I invite you to close your eyes and hear these words. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha. Just to take our seat and enter fully into this moment is to recognize that we are part of something so much greater than ourselves. Happy is one who sits in your house. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha. We relax into this moment, remembering that we do not possess this house, this moment, this body, this world, and that makes it all the more precious. In the simplicity of returning again and again to this breath, this sensation, this sound, we are practicing happiness. The happiness of peace and contentment, the happiness of feeling connected, the happiness of greeting the sun in the morning or just taking another breath, the happiness of knowing that this bad mood will pass and this harsh thought has no substance, the happiness of letting go of ill will for this moment, the happiness of allowing desire to come to its natural end in the mind, the happiness of growing still, the happiness of seeing life and death and everything and not being afraid. Is this political? Well, I think it is. This happiness doesn't hurt people we do not know. This happiness doesn't tell us to be ashamed of growing old. This happiness doesn't tell us we aren't okay, but can fix that if we try hard enough. This happiness doesn't attract a lot of buyers and sellers. It calls for careful cultivation like a field of precious jewels, moment after moment. It calls for dedication and community and willingness and faith. It calls upon wisdom and courage. It is itself a child of goodness, so simple, so huge, but it is the only happiness there is.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Adonai.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, v'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, v'nei Shabbat nekabela. La 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 lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, v'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, v'nei Shabbat nekabela. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו לתפארת בתהילה. לה 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 לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, בני Shabbat נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, בני Shabbat נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם משוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לה 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 לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, בני Shabbat נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, בני Shabbat נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה,
Continue with Baruch Hu.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed Le'olam va'ed Yadadai Yadadai
In Proverbs, it is written, Tov, Pat, Chareva, Veshalvava, Mibait Maleh, Zivcheriv. Better a dry crust and tranquility and calmness within than a house full of feasting and strife. Whenever I teach a new text, I generally follow one of my most important teachers' teachings, which is to read it aloud and then invite the learners to read it to themselves and to sit with it for a moment. And without overthinking, ask them to feel it. To me, this is a wonderful lesson of the interior of Shabbat. How do we get to that place within that gets the teaching of this text at a gut level? All of us have been in that moment or those moments. If a house filled with frenzy and plenty and so much stress, when all we might have needed in that moment was just a small piece of bread and the tranquility that comes from having been able to step away. That is Shabbat. We'll come back to this text later. We continue with Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha veshinantam levanecha vedibarta bam veshivtecha beveitecha uvelechtecha baderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leod al yadecha vehayu letotafot beineinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
It's time to share simchas. Are there people who would like to share simchas? Just unmute yourselves and jump in. Happiness you'd like to share.
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
My sister's son, Alec graduated from Michigan this past week.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. Wonderful. My son just freshman year.
My sister's son, Alec.
Wonderful. Congratulations, Alec.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
Sandy Lesky, I think that you might have one.
Yes, I discussed it before services. My grandson Bennett graduated from school today, and he's 18 years old now. And there was 8 in the class. It was a small school, and each one of the graduates got up and spoke a beautiful story of themselves and what they learned and how they got to this day. And it was quite a beautiful, very touching, wonderful graduation service. Then families, some of us went to lunch and continued. The celebration was great. And that was Bennett Rosenfeld.
I just have to say, I've been to a lot of graduations in my life. Some I've participated in myself and many others I've watched. I'm not sure I've ever been to a more moving and meaningful graduation than Bennett's and his friends this morning. It was just stunning in so many ways. So much to be proud of, Sandy.
Thank you.
Dee Jacobson has her hand raised. Dee.
I did. My grandson, Joseph Rosenberg, will be going to Tufts next year. His two top choices were both in Boston, or at least the Boston area. So he decided to go to Tufts, where his father had graduated from, rather than Boston U, where his mother had graduated from. Either way, I'm delighted he will be in Boston.
That's wonderful. Mazel tov. Anyone else?
Rabbi Scott?
Yes, Debbie.
Well, I was just excited to see earlier today on Facebook that our Chuck and Karen have gone on a trip to Alabama. And he was able to do that, and they look great, and I know everybody's happy for them. It was just very exciting to see that on, that they're doing that.
That is wonderful. Others? Anybody else?
Tell us about Abraham's graduation.
He graduated.
But he has a job.
I'll tell you that he has a job. I'll tell you the funny part about Abraham's graduation. We didn't get the memo, apparently, that I think because of COVID precautions, the kids went up, they got their diplomas, and then they went down. You know how normally the graduates come and they sit back down. But I think because they didn't want to bottleneck, they had the kids leave. So we were sitting there, and Abraham went behind us, and I figured he'd come back up, and then all of a sudden I thought, I think he's left. Like, we probably should go meet him. And so there was kind of it was a very efficient graduation, but it was great to celebrate with him. And we're very excited about his nenext chapter.
And what is his job? What's he going to be doing?
Debbie, I don't really know exactly. I don't really understand it. I mean, I don't understand the job. Basically, he's working for Epic, and he's going to be what's called a technical solutions engineer. That's all I got for you. But it's cool. We're excited. All right.
And where is Epic?
Oh, where is it? Oh, that's Natalie. In Madison, Wisconsin.
Does he like cold weather?
I don't think he understands how cold. But yeah, we're going to have one son in Madison and one son in Ann Arbor. So, yeah. And with that, let's all begin singing. The Amidah is a prayer that we put at the center of our service. And in it, the opening words, Adonai Savatai Tisach, Please do me a favor and nod if you can hear me. Okay, good. I was having some weird feedback. Okay. The words Adonai Samatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Hilatecha. We ask God to open our lips so that our mouths may declare God's glory. That we ask God to be able to praise God. We ask the divine source of creation to give us the ability to recognize that divine source. We invite ourselves, really, into this moment as we offer these words. Page 12, not sure what page, Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
I invite you to please be seated if you are standing. And now to focus our attention, our energy, our thoughts, our prayers to those in need of healing and wholeness, to our society still reeling and still broken, and to all those suffering from all sorts of ignorance all those who keep their eyes shut to truth, all those who are just unwilling to see what is before their eyes. I'm not identifying the specific people I'm referring to. I believe they are to be found across the spectrum of human beings. But it does feel like one of the greatest plagues we are facing these days is a willful ignorance, a blindness to lessons learned long ago. Tonight especially, I call these folks to mind and to heart, as well as all those in need of physical and spiritual and emotional healing. All those who you are thinking of now, I invite you to write in the names of people you would like to think of and pray for as we offer Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you, Ellie. It is great to have you back with us. Few announcements. Tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, we continue with our next session of the Kosher Pretzel. You are welcome to come to Yoga to Gather. It's in Bel Air, across the street from the Bel Air Triangle area. And you can be masked, and there are these special ultraviolet lights that Rochelle Manigal has installed in her studio that take care of bugs, and or you can join us online via Zoom. But either way, join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock. This week, 10 at noon continues at noon. Next Friday night, Shabbat, Andrew Goldstein will be joining us from McKinney, Texas. And next Sunday, we have two really important events, two really important programs. From 3 to 5 on Sunday afternoon is our event called 100 Voices, which is a program created and run by a woman named Tracy J. And we will actually be matched up with the St. Mark United Methodist Church of Wichita, Kansas. You'll learn how it is that we got connected with them. But the purpose of this is to have as Tracy puts it, a human dialogue. It's a dialogue about Black people and white people. It's really about human beings, but sharing their experiences, both common and different. We'll be breaking into small groups throughout the 2 hours, and it's really about listening and being heard. I'm really excited to present this event. And then that evening, starting at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9:30 about, but you're welcome to join us late or leave early if you need to. We will be doing an extended Torah study that evening, which is called a Tikkun Leil Shavuot. Well, Tikkun Leil Shavuot wouldn't start until like midnight, so we're not doing that. But we are going to have an extended Torah study in honor and celebration of Shavuot, which begins that evening. So I really hope that you will join us for that as well. Of course, all on Zoom. So I want to go back to that verse I showed you a little bit ago. I just want to let me remind you of it. I got to get back to it. Sorry. And let it, as I say, let it marinate for you. It's possible that if you let yourself feel this verse from Proverbs, better a dry crust and tranquility and calmness within than a house full of feasting with strife. If you really let it sink in, if you allow it to touch you, to maybe enter places that you tucked away, that you'd rather not remember, you may find that it stings a little bit. That's how it struck me. It felt like a key that has the ability to open a door that might be to a room that isn't one that I would want to visit or don't want to visit it again. Better a dry crust and tranquility and calmness within than a house full of feasting with strife. The reason why I think it may strike a difficult note is because it makes sense and it's very hard to do. It's very hard to walk away from the buzz and the hubbub of life, to allow ourselves to step away because we find that perhaps our needs, our spiritual needs, aren't being met in that moment. Even if it means we have to sustain ourselves on something perhaps less obviously delicious. And when I say delicious, I put that word in quotes. Less something that we are drawn to dig into, even if it's not exactly good for us. This is a text that sort of sets up the conversation for the discussion of this text tonight. The Torah portion called Bahar, which is the Torah portion. Well, it's actually Bahar B'chukotai. It's a double Torah portion, but I'm going to just be talking about Bahar. Bahar lays out a series of blessings and curses that will come upon the Israelites based upon whether or not they follow the commandments, whether they follow the commandments that God has laid out for them. And there are three in particular that that Bahar really, I think, is built on, and those are what are called Shemitah, Yovel, and Ribit. Shemitah is the biblical rule that, and remember, everyone was a farmer back then. The biblical rule that every seventh year, an Israelite in the land of Israel was commanded to let his land lay fallow. Every 7th year, he was commanded to not plant and harvest the land. Now, environmentalists point this out as a biblical environmental rule, that it is known that land will produce better if over a certain amount of time, occasionally, certain, in this case, one every 7 years, the land isn't manipulated by human hands. So you're a farmer living in the ancient Near East, and it's year 7, and you have to not plant or harvest your land. Imagine what that feels like. But it's a Shabbat for the land. Think about it. It's 1 out of every 7, right? In the same way that we are meant to observe Shabbat by taking a day off. Or as I often teach, by maybe giving ourselves mini Shabbats. 1 minute out of every 7. Or 10 minutes out of every 70. Or just the inkling that when something grabs us and it maybe leads us to anger or frustration or even rage, we breathe and give ourselves a Shabbat of quiet, a quieting. But here we have this physical commandment. Leave the land fallow 1 year out of every 7. Let go. Let go of that desire, that need to control the land. But what's very important is that we learn from our sages that from a spiritual perspective, it wasn't just about the land. The land, according to the Zohar, according to the mystical tradition, was a metaphor for the heart. So this wasn't just about the land. This is about us. And that one of the ways that we can achieve a sense of nicha de liba is what it's called, a sense of quieting, resting, gentling of our hearts is by letting go. Imagine if there were 7 things that we grabbed hold of because we needed to try to control them, that were perhaps even outside of our influence. Imagine the impact we could make, if we all could make, if we just let one of the 7 go. So we have Shemitah. Then we also have Yovel. Yovel is a truly fascinating concept. The Yovel was to take place every 50th year. And it actually turned into 2 years in a row following the 7th of a series of Shemitah. So they'd have a year off, and they'd have another, they'd actually not have control of their lands, or at least some of their lands. See, the Yovel said that every 50th year, whatever land apportionment you or your generations past over the previous 50 years had gained, perhaps because you got it because someone who owned it lost it because they were in debt. The Yovel says that original land apportionment that was lost to that family a generation or 2 ago, the Yovel says all original land holdings go back to their original owners. It is a built-in safety net. It is a built-in safety against long-term generational poverty. But it's, again, not just about the land. It's about restoration. It's about this reminder, this recognition that at some point even in the face of the deepest losses that we may or our parents may have experienced, at some point, we get to set the record straight again. We get to be those who restore others. We get to be restored. What a beautiful thing that is. All of us know the way in which tragedies can be passed down from generation to generation. Loss, both physical and spiritual, can be passed down from generation to generation. What an amazing thing it would be if at least once every 7 generations or once every 2 generations, there was some kind of way to restore people to a position of strength, at least as equal as all others. And then the third is called rebit. The third is this concept that is from the Bible that says one cannot charge interest when loaning money. Now, I know we do, and I know it was the Jews who figured out how to do it. Something called the Pros Bull when Rabbi Hillel, but that's later. In the Torah, this ideal concept is people should not be in long-term debt. And people should not have to be under the thumb of others for generation upon generation. But if the resources of life, physical, spiritual, emotional, are what all of us need equal access to, and over time, little by little by little, we end up having to pay more to try to get even than others do. We need to have some built-in mechanisms that allow for the possibility that we can get whole. That those who were broken in the past don't always have to be broken into the future. All of this really comes down to this idea of nicha de liba, the tranquility of the heart, the quieting of the soul. And while there are lots of things we can do, prayer and worship, meditation, spiritual focus, all these things, there are also infrastructural elements that our society needs to put in place to allow people to move from brokenness to repaired, from behind the starting line to at least even with those who stand there, who were born there. And of course, we can all see these parallels. We can see how they refer to generational poverty in our day. And we can see how they speak to this concept of racial equality. But they aren't just meant to be understood in terms of our physical wealth or physical safety, but it's also something that we can practice in our own lives. How we learn to let go of our need to control is a measuring stick for how happy we are. I don't know anybody who is happy and always needing to be in control. Restoring ourselves, restoring others to a place of equanimity, not equality, but equanimity, to see each other as equal. It's crucial to our spiritual wholeness, to our health, to our happiness, and practicing a policy that makes us stewards of God's resources instead of lords. Because there's this recognition that the Torah comes back to over and over, that our world isn't going to be a world of peace if everyone isn't treated equally and fairly. And if we don't do it for ourselves as well. The land, according to our sages, is the heart. And the way in which we achieve a quietness, a calmness, a smoothness of our heart is by letting go, by pursuing restoration, and by committing ourselves to the equal and just distribution of the resources around us. At least being committed to the opportunity for all to do so. So it operates on a physical plane and a spiritual one. As we move towards the conclusion of Leviticus, we will see how our next stage into Bamidbar, Numbers, will now take us into the stories of how we live these lessons in the wilderness, and hopefully creating a sense of promised land for all. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Aleinu. Holly? I'm sorry, not Holly. Excuse me. Don't worry about Holly. I'm not asking you to sing it. Ellie, everyone, I invite you to please rise.
This one is you.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Well, then, there it is. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'ted gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, אבל אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Please be seated. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. At this time, I invite you to write in the names of people whom you are thinking of who have passed away. People whose memories remain with you as a blessing, who have inspired you, who have brought you light, and who you hope to carry into your life each day. I invite you to write the names into our chat and to please rise for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechonu v'yamechonu v'chayi l'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach le'olam u'mei al maya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlom Rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace upon us, upon all Israel and all the world, and let us say amen. We are going to conclude with Say shalom.
Oh, say shalom bimromah. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitchanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
All right, everybody on mute. Everybody on mute.
I regret this.
Baruch atah
Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Good to see
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Ellie, Rabbi. Thank you. Yashikoah.
Thank you. Thank
Ellie,
you.
Rabbi Scott, just wonderful. Thank you so much.
you.
Shabbat shalom, y'all.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I wish you all could see what happens at my house with Michigan, our dog, when she hears us starting the Kiddush. Well, when she smells the challah when I take it out of the bag, she's literally watching every moment. She knows it is challah time.
Our house also. They know.
Yeah.
Darling. Really nice.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Ellie.
Thank you.